nice to see you again on this beautiful day. And this time with a quote by Dorothy Nevill. The real art of conversation is not only to say the right thing in the right place, but, far more difficult still, to leave unsaid the wrong thing at the tempting moment. How difficult can it be, Peyton? And how do you like this rule of thumb when it comes to communication?
Yeah, this is a cool quote because I think that once I read this quote, I was like, oh, yeah, that's true. And I'd only intuitively recognized this before. I've never heard it articulated, but I find it really true. And it is different than how I tend to think about conversations or what it means to be a good interlocutor. A lot of times the focus is on how to say something insightful or valuable or resonant or connecting or whatever, and not so much of a focus on just the quality of our interactions and the energy associated with them has so much to do with the negative. And you've actually told me in the past that don't measure intimate relationships based off of the good moments, measure them off of the worst moments. And this applies at a much smaller scale in conversation, where when I think about it, there can be a lot of conversations that have like 90% good stuff or 100% good stuff through 2/3 of it, and then partway through, there can be just a small comment that reveals an ulterior motive, an intention that is not sincere, a view or a sense of comparison or disconnectedness or ego in some way. And those are the things when we fall for the temptation, when we are not aware of what we are going to say, or we allow ourselves to speak out of intentions that are not true to our highest self. Those moments within conversations are unfortunately the stickiest. Much more sticky than the things that go right are the things that rub people the wrong way or leave a bad aftertaste for everyone involved. And on a big scale, it was something big and dramatic, or with something quite subtle that just can reveal that in this moment we are interacting with this person as if they are an object, rather than as if we are viewing them as an end to themselves, for instance, or all kinds of other examples here. Is ultimately the intentions behind what we say is what can oftentimes intuitively resonate and residue with a given dialogue or interaction with somebody. What do you think about the art of leaving things unsaid in conversations and in the ways that is important in our relationships?
Yeah, it's like you said, it's hard to actually leave things unsaid if you're really tired and not triggered or like upset or angry or something like that. From a state of high affection, it is the easiest way to destroy a relationship. And those are the moments that count most. Like I said, you can measure a relationship not by the best moments, but by the worst moments. Or like Danny Kahneman said, that you can predict marital unsuccess, like marital failure on the worst moments, and therefore you also can say probably a relationship will stay solid if it's not bad. Maybe not the best moments you share, but if you leave out the negative stuff, if you leave out criticizing your spouse to a point of defeat or what, or neglecting or like walling yourself off, all these things that lead to a destruction in a connection. If you leave out destroying the connection, it has a higher likelihood of still being there after a while. So this is pretty obvious, but this is also the most effective advice anybody can take, to just cut out the negative. Because if you do, then you have a healthy basis from where to move on. a healthy basis where you can plant in positive experiences with each other. So it is also not only important to say the right things at the right time, the right moment to the right person, but also to not say the wrong things at the wrong time, which is probably much more important. So sometimes just talk, and then a little small thought comes along, and you don't even have to mean it in that way, but it also can have an effect. Yeah, but how do you think about controlling your communication versus not having the ability to control what the receiver receives versus what you intended to send?
Yeah, yeah. This is a a great thought starter, and it is a little bit counterintuitive, or not necessarily the clearest prescription of how to ride this wave with elegance. What does it look like to practice via negativa in our interactions, given the nature of what it is to dialogue with a human? Like right now, when I'm speaking to you, I haven't pre-written this sentence that I'm saying right now in my head. I'm listening to me say this at the exact same time you are. This thing is emerging within my mind. I am hearing this for the first time at the same time as my interlocutor. However, that's not to say, and so I haven't pre-authored this thought back here, and when we do try to rehearse and pre-author our thoughts, we find that it's extremely counterproductive. It causes us to be rigid, insensitive, unaware, and oftentimes that's one of the most reliable ways to actually to say stuff that's counterproductive, is to be overly rehearsed and to already have this thing mapped out in terms of what we're going to say in our head. We are far better off sort of flowing with conversation. However, that leaves us with the vulnerability of, I don't know what I'm going to say next, and so I hope I don't say the wrong thing. I was told I'm not going to, I don't want to say bad stuff, and so how do I prevent that, and blah, blah, blah. It's kind of a catch-22 in some ways. But what I think the key is here is, like, first of all, awareness is kind of at the root of how do we avoid doing things that are counterproductive in general. It's to bring an awareness of what are our higher intentions, what are our goals, what are we out here for, what is the purpose of not just this moment, but this phase, this season, who am I, what are my values, etc. And having an inner congruence with that is, in my view, a foundation of enabling ourselves to trust in the spontaneity of the flow, which is critical to connecting with people, ultimately, in sincerity. And at the same time, there is a like if we're just discovering what we're saying for the first time, then how do we prevent ourselves from saying something counterproductive? And I think that the key is our intentions. Even if we misspeak, people can hear our intentions. They can sense our intentions intuitively in our bodies, in our logical, non-conceptual mind. We sense these things. Is this person viewing me as an equal, as somebody with divine value, as somebody that they sincerely care about and have compassion for, regardless of what is going on in this talk? Or is this somebody that is comparing themselves to me and and views himself as superior, or has pride and ego, or has the intentions of a fear of being misunderstood, and they're constantly saying things to justify themselves, a desire to impress, and they're trying to puff themselves up or one up. These things are things that we can see right through it when people are trying to impress us, and it doesn't impress. Like, the least impressive thing in the world is the desire to impress others, and the fear of being misunderstood is the same way. We're so much better off allowing things to flow and trusting that they will be received how they're received, rather than constantly trying to play defense with what we're saying, because that is oftentimes, once again, counterintuitively, the way that we get in our own way the most. In my own life, the area that I had to learn a lot of the art of not saying stuff was when I was first a leader. I found that jumping into this, I was 24 at the time when I was first leading a bunch of people, and I really did not do a good job of it at first, and a lot of it was because I said stuff that I should have left unsaid, and it was because on some level I wanted peace, I wanted harmony, maybe I wanted to be respected by others, and I wanted to connect with others. I wanted there to be positive energy and blah blah blah. Some intentions are good. Some intentions were kind of defensive in nature, as you can imagine. And these things were, if I would have just not said the things that were counterproductive, the ways that I was trying to, on some level, speaking as if I was one of the guys rather than as an officer among enlisted men. I was kind of switching from this mode to that mode. This time I'm acting as if I'm a friend in this brief interaction. That's kind of what's under the surface. And then over here, if I have to go back to being the authority, it doesn't resonate. It doesn't work. It feels fake. It feels insincere. It feels hollow. And it feels unfair in some reason or in some way. And so that's the dimension where I literally had several of these relationships with people that I was managing that ultimately could never be fixed. I could never be a leader because I had communicated and interacted with people in a way that made the power distance untenable between us, given that we were the same age or they were older and I was acting in this or that way. And I learned that, okay, actually, like the part of the reason why I have to fire this person right now is because I did not lead well enough, because I was not wise enough regarding what needed to be left unsaid in order for this dynamic to have integrity. And that's one example of where this can happen. That's where I made this mistake and had to learn some painful lessons. And this applies, of course, to many other situations in our life. There's 1,000 things that we're tempted to say to someone that we are first dating that we know intuitively is not productive. It's not going to make this interaction better. It's not going to make us more authentic with each other. It's not going to it's not helpful or skillful to do. And these are the things that I over the course of my journey, I've had to repeat several of these mistakes in order to learn the lesson finally. And so I do think that ultimately coming back to the guide of staying in the flow, staying in our intuition, staying in awareness, and really, at least for me, deeply inspecting my intentions behind saying something. And we're never going to be, at least I'm never going to be perfect with this. And but when I do think through, when I say things that were better left unsaid, it almost always comes back to my intentions. If something was said wrongly with the right intention, it doesn't tend to be destructive. But if something was said rightly with the wrong intention, then there is no masking what the true value or poison in something like that can be. So that's kind of my experience share with it. It is an area where the via negativa is very underrated as it relates to leaving things that are better left unsaid. What are your experiences with this, and any concluding thoughts?
Yeah, man, what a great advice. Just stay in the flow and then try to come from a place of awareness and attention. And that also values the fact that every conversation can be like a dance. You just have to watch out to not step on each other's toes, but engaging in one is like very rewarding in terms of both of you make art, or if you're a small group, you can share your experiences and perspectives. And the more different you are, the better, because it also is the gift of getting to know each other and understanding different perspectives, putting yourself into different kinds of shoes. And for that you have to be aware of what the other person says at the same time as the other person, what she looks like or feels, what she feels, maybe her micro expressions, or like what she receives, and that you can steer that way. But yeah, there's an addition to the via negativa style, which means leaving the things out. Like leaving things out is just subtract things, and then you will be better off instead of adding more things. If you say something right with the wrong intention, better not. Better leave that off. If you make a comment which is not helpful in a situation which is tensed, better not. Just don't. You can ask yourself, as another heuristic maybe, you can ask yourself, is that serving our relationship, or is that helpful, or is that like being like balm for the soul, or is that just another joke or is it provocating or whatever. In a world where everybody tries to like self-preserve and also thrive, it is worth to be kind, and it is worth it just to ask, just to hold for a moment and ask yourself, okay, is that really a thing that I want to be told to myself, maybe, or it could help telling, or is that criticism really constructive, or can I frame it in a way that it is really constructive? Is it from a place of love and connection? Is it from a place of respect? Then even the harshest words, when they come from a place of love or respect, they have a totally different effect, helpful effect. For example, like if someone comes, you performed and you have not reflected upon it yet, but he comments on your performance, and it's these things have to improve, otherwise you will not make it. And that's tough love. But I believe that tough love, in terms of saying things that are true, but from a place of respect and love, is not easy to do, but in the end helps people more to evolve themselves, or helps people more to grow, instead of just feeding an illusion, which in the end maybe pops like a bubble, and nobody awakes well from an illusion which was well fed and well lived. It is more disrupting than tough love and telling the truth. And that's the difference, isn't it? Like, from a place of intention. What do you think?
And this is also not only what to lean into prior to a conversation. If we want a conversation to go well, we should not rehearse it. We should not anticipate what they will say and how we will give a rebuttal. We should instead lean into, what is my intention? And then commit to staying aligned with our truth, with integrity, and with intention. And because, to your point, two things, the same thing can be said in two different ways. And somebody is saying it with the right intention, in full authenticity, and with candor and openness. And it could be a very harsh truth, a very difficult conversation. And then another would be somewhat ulterior, where it's not authentic. It might be the same harsh truth, but this person is trying to hide behind a persona and mask their emotions and feelings about it, and be guarded during it, and also kind of playing around with manipulating the other person's reactions. And we know from our own experience that we are completely allergic to one of these. And somehow the candid, authentic person that is being completely truthful, and that we can feel is being completely authentic and sincere and honest with us, we are in some way refreshed by feeling this authenticity. I have friends that will look me in my face and tell me that I'm doing something dumb, or that I've made a huge mistake, and I feel like grateful for it. And same with, I had a boss once when I was still at a corporation who was a master at being completely candid, and it was because, in part, he had no ego, he had no pride. This persona, this way of being, this ego, this identity, this self-image, this narrative that we oftentimes try to formulate and defend and try to masquerade within our interactions. This is what ultimately, in my opinion, cuts us off from a genuine connection that is the basis for candor with difficult conversations that are then received as refreshing rather than as alienating and infuriating. And so I do think that the key in a lot of this, and I'm beating a dead horse a little bit, but when we are looking back at a conversation and what went right, what went wrong, if we overanalyze the words that we said and shouldn't have said or whatever, when we look ahead at a conversation, if we think about the words that we should or shouldn't say, we actually do more harm than good. And speaking from my own experience, I've made this mistake enough times to be quite confident in the cause and effect here. And on the other hand, if we use our either the post game or the pre-game as intention settings, I have the intention to be truthful, authentic. This is my higher goal. This is the reason why I'm having this conversation. This is ultimately why I'm doing what I'm doing, not just in this zoomed in place, but in a zoomed out place. When we feel that congruence, then we are on a far firmer foundation to just let it rip and free flow through this and trust in the unfolding of how things play out. And ultimately, they play out way, way smoother. And even the same thing said from that place is received in a far different way, remembered and felt in a far different way. And so that's the dance. And to your point, it really is a dance. If we try to treat it like I don't know, a military march or something that's overly regimented and overly stringent and rigid, doesn't go well. And when we truly commit to flowing and surfing, then our interactions are far more genuine, and the connections in our life are enriched, and the difficult conversations are far healthier and more productive. And this is a key meta skill, I truly believe, and one that I have a long way to go on, but grateful for quite a bit of practice, and much more practice will surely await us both. So that's it from me. Any final thoughts from you, man?
Hey man, there's a saying that I heard today. It was like, if you have to eat a shitty sandwich, take big bites.
When you're eating shit, don't nibble. That's right.
Yeah, that's, don't nibble.
It's a good mantra. Lean right
Yeah,
into that. Lean right
yeah.
in.
Dive right into hard conversations, because after that you will have an easier life. Hard choices, easy life, isn't it? Easy choices, harder life. And there's also, like, to conclude this, which came to mind earlier, was the five horsemen of marital success or unsuccess. Like, if one of the four horsemen can come into your marriage, then you can say, okay, we really have to work on that. Otherwise, it's a dying trajectory. John Gottman analyzed these key predictors, and it's like criticism, contempt, defensiveness, or stonewalling. And if we just leave out attacking our partners, if we leave out showing disrespect or belittling our partner, or if we just leave out to refuse to take responsibility for what we do or say, or if we just withdraw from a difficult conversation without doing anything productive, this is a key predictor. So if we just leave out these, we also have a much higher likelihood of surviving our relationships. And with that said, may we leave out and cut out the negative. May we seek genuine, flowful connection and try our best anytime. Huh?
Doing our best is all we can do. We'll keep it up.
Keep it up,
Appreciate the
bro.
conversation. Appreciate all that you left
Appreciate
unsaid. And I will see you on the next one, my friend.
See you on the next one, Peyton. See ya.